Hello and welcome everybody to the buy-round edition of the Origin Review. Game 1, 18-6, 4 tries to 1 in favour of New South Wales. We are joined by the Daily Telegraph's Brent Read. Great to see you, Reedy. Very disappointed, I assume.
Tough morning, Jimmy. Tough morning.
Tough morning. And also Josh Mansour, who's very happy, got the score prediction correct. He's came in like an absolute wrecking ball, complimentary of our studio, but then a man with an eye for detail, bit of criticism as well about some of the jerseys.
Yeah, I want to know who done this fit out here, because, you know, obviously I know you're a Bulldogs man, but you just, behind the cameras, obviously just changed the jersey there. We've got the Cronulla Sharks jersey there, your former club Dragons arch rival.
Yeah.
A lot of questions to be answered from you, Jimmy.
Yeah, well, we'll leave that to off the air.
And last time I was on this show, we actually went quite viral, so let's see what happens this time around,
Let's see. But hey, mate, you predicted the score.
Yep, predicted it.
Did he back it though, Jimmy?
What did I say?
That's the question. Did you back it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
No, I didn't put money on it, but I don't know if my friends did it either. But anyway, I'm still an oracle, mate. I still predicted a score.
Yeah,
were you envisaging Nathan Cleary's off night with the boot?
No, I wasn't, to be honest. That was a bit bizarre. I cannot say it was a bit. When I saw an Adidas commercial, I don't know if you saw it.
At half time, yeah.
Did you see it? And like it was like Brian Tortle and Angus Crichton like patting me on the back. Mate, you can do this. You can get this kick, blah, blah, blah. Mate, was that a jinx or what? Like he just wasn't on at all, unfortunately. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens in game 2, because obviously Zach Lomax's kicking percentage is pretty high.
He missed one as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he absolutely. I don't know what was going on, but it was the tee or the balls. But hopefully we get that sorted for next game.
Reedy, let's get straight into the game. New South Wales, for me, dominated in all areas of the game. The tone was set on play 2 with Zach Lomax picking out Harry Grant, going through him, and then Payne Haas and especially Isaiah Yeo as well, that entered the game with the mindset of I'm going to run, a pure run mentality, as opposed to that ball playing lock role that he plays at the Panthers. And that seemed to be where New South Wales really took advantage.
Well, I think that was, as a Queenslander, I think that was the fear going into that game, that Payne Haas, that we wouldn't have an answer to Payne Haas. We obviously missed Tino last year, and I thought Tino coming back this year would make a huge difference for Queensland, but they couldn't stop Payne Haas. And obviously a couple of blokes had off nights. Harry Grant had a tough night, hadn't played a lot of football lately, and doesn't always start in Origin. So I think him starting that, they targeted him early, went after him. And I think his lack of recent football showed for Harry Grant, but for me, the issues were all down the middle of the field. They just couldn't control Payne Haas, Isaiah Yeo. They just dominated us. And the difficult part is, where do you go from here? Because Queensland don't have a lot of options, but they've got to find a way back. And the scoreline flattered Queensland. You mentioned the missed goal kicks. I mean, it could have been a lot heavier. So that's the worry.
That's what I was worried about as well. Like with those kicks missed, like New South Wales, I don't think the scoreline represented the first half performance by the New South Wales Blues.
It was dominant.
You said the New South Wales Blues, you're absolutely right. They just ran the ball down Queensland's throat that first half. And the telling sign was when Isaiah Yeo was just tucking it under. Normally he plays, with a lead and a sweeping play at the back, and he never passed once. He was just constantly running the ball, and it was a handful, 2 defenders minimum every single time. Like you said, Payne Haas, going to this game, I thought Tina was a massive inclusion for the Maroons. I thought he had an off night. I want to be totally honest.
It was almost like he was trying too hard, trying too hard to make a statement. Gave away a couple of penalties.
Yep. I think it wasn't only Tino, but all of Queensland, a matter of fact. Like last game, game 3 last year in the decider, obviously there must have been a bit of scar tissue in the Maroon squad, and they came out firing and they wanted to make a statement, yes, but I think their emotion really impaired their judgment in a lot of players in that game. And particularly that first 20 minutes, so much energy goes into that, and it was a lot of those moments were self-sabotaged by a lot of the players, basic errors, and they just put them on the back foot.
Yeah, when we look at Queensland's start through the middle of the field, and we speak about Payne Haas, Isaiah Yeo, run mentality, but then Queensland, they played into the hands with some ill discipline, especially in the opening exchanges. So. Is it as simple as fix your discipline? And also, really, I want to ask you a question. You know how they say that games are reffed differently in Origin? Do you think we're sort of seeing a a bit of a change in some of those. Like Tino with
For sure.
the sort of the hand on the face.
I didn't mind that. I personally didn't mind that. I think that's Origin football.
Well,
this was more like a club game, right? I mean, I think there were 21 errors and was it 15? Some ridiculous amount of penalties for an Origin game.
But that sort of facial from Tino for some that's like
avoidable.
in Origin.
It's avoidable. It's avoidable though. Like,
but it's stuff that in Origin in the past they probably let slide, right?
It's true.
But this time around, he seemed to pick up everything. Ashley Klein. He was just. The game was. I thought it was I thought it was a bit of a bludger of an Origin game, to be honest. There were just so many stoppages.
There was a lot of stoppages.
So many mistakes as well. There's so many errors, and that was from both teams. But Queensland, no doubt, their discipline was awful. I mean, defensively they were poor, but their discipline was really poor. They put a lot of pressure on themselves with their discipline, with and without the ball. So that's the first thing they got to fix. I mean, if they can fix that, you give yourself a fighting chance, but they didn't really give themselves a fighting chance in this game because their discipline, as I said, was so poor. And Billy said it afterwards in the press conference that they basically, their mistakes and their penalties, they were out of the game.
Well, with that, is it and we're going to talk about maybe some of the changes that they quote unquote need to make, but is it as a simple a fix as if we fix up our discipline? Look at what we did. With limited possession, plenty of mistakes, all that tackling we had to do, we were desperate there. So if we fix that up, it swings us back into touching distance.
I take that in consideration, but also New South Wales had an off night as well.
Yeah.
So if New South Wales could have put 30 easily on the Queenslanders, easily. And that's my opinion. That's putting bias aside. That's the honest truth. I feel like there was a lot of moments where New South Wales didn't ice, and if they get their time again in game 2, it could be a completely different story.
Do you think New South Wales will go to try and ice those moments? Because I felt as if they came with a purpose and a directive to just stay at the middle.
Yeah.
And they didn't shift the ball in yardage at all from memory. Queensland, they actually looked quite dangerous when they shifted to their right edge, but I can't recall many shifts, if at all, from New South Wales in yardage to midfield.
Yeah. No, I'm with Josh. I think they just came with a plan that would go straight down, bang down the front door. Just bang down the front door and just
simple, boring
and they had such
football,
success with it early. Why would you change? Just keep, because Queensland really had no answer to it. So I think that once when they went into the game with that philosophy and it was working and they were winning that arm wrestle in the middle of the field, they didn't need to go away from it, Jimmy. They didn't need to go to the edges, except when they were in that good ball and they went to the edges and they caused a bit of trouble when they did it, particularly Steve Crichton. I mean, he's in such rare touch at the moment. They just, every time they went to him, he just caused havoc. So, I would imagine in Perth they just replicate the same game plan.
I agree.
And that's discipline as well. When people talk about discipline, automatically we think about the penalties in the game, but the discipline to remain focused, to stay true to that game plan, especially when you've got Latrell on an edge, you've got Crichton on the edge, you've got the brilliance of Cleary and Moses, you've got the ball playing ability of Isaiah Yeo. Guys, we've come into a plan to flood the middle. Oh, now the game's opened up. Oh, you know what? Let's give it to those people. But obviously, it could be really successful and you could blow a team away, or you could just stay at it, or you could make mistakes. The discipline of New South Wales, I think, needs to be complemented, how they didn't go looking for expansive style of football.
I agree. And the discipline as well, when they got kicked into a corner, to be, you know what, we're just going to tuck it up here. We're just going to pump the middle, tough ball carriers, getting in the middle, and then get to our kick. And that's what they did over and over again. And when you saw Queensland do that, I just felt nervous every time they were coming out of yardage. And I also thought as well, when normally in the first 20 minutes, it's a bit of a grinding style game match. No one wants to show their cards too early. But when I saw Queensland try get an arm wrestle with New South Wales, like, they didn't threaten me at all. And I felt like they were going to cough up possession, which they did. And why would they going away from the middle, New South Wales? Because what's their biggest strength? They've got big, strong outside backs. Brian Thornton, Zach Lomax, probably the best in the comp coming out of yardage. You've got Latrell, you've got Crichton, you've got Dylan Edwards on those kick returns. And then you've got the inclusions of Yeo, Payne Haas. I've got to say, Max King off the bench was outstanding. We got to give him a massive rap, because he had a lot of pressure going into this game. There was calls for Terrell May to be included on that bench, But I thought Max King did an enormous job.
He did a fantastic job. I was actually surprised to see him come on as soon as he did, in around the 20-minute mark. I thought he may have been left till after half time. I thought Leniu would have come on first, but they went with Max King. He was outstanding. His carries, his defensive work was exceptional. Spencer Leniu enters the field.
Far out.
He was very fired up. He's been public enemy number 1 up there in Queensland. Obviously,
He thrives under that too.
He loves it, doesn't he?
Oh,
I think
Apparently he was giving it to the Queensland fans when he ran out. That was before the game. So
I think you know when the press make these headlines, and it was a press initiated headline. There's some people you don't poke, and Spencer Leniu is one of those individuals. You only poke him enough if he goes completely schizo and over the edge. But he was beyond fired up, and that it was interesting to see New South Wales were kicking off to their left, which is exactly where Spencer Leniu parked himself. They looked up and they kicked to the opposite side, and they go to Max King. I'm a bit torn on this because with New South Wales coming through the middle, do you go, let's go and take him on? But you're giving him his best carry. Is it too much of a roll of the dice to kick off to Spencer Leniu?
would you respect, if you're going to give me an option, if I'm in their shoes and they say to me, kicking off to Max King or Spencer Leniu,
I'm kicking off to Max
I'm going to
King.
kick off to Max King. And that's no disrespect to Max King, who, as you said, was outstanding. But Spencer was, you could see Spencer was in the mood, right? And even at that kickoff, he was giving it to Queensland for not kicking off to him. You know, the reaction from him. So I wouldn't kick off to him either. I would kick it to the other bloke.
Yeah.
Why would you kick to Spencer
Well,
in that sort of frame of mind?
Well,
I understand what you're saying, Jimmy. You can make a statement.
That's it.
You can stick it to him and make a statement. But
If we're going to compare to like all the props in the game, Spencer Leniu has the best leg speed out of all of them. I'm happy to put my hand up and say that. Like you think about it, you give Spencer Leniu a 20-metre run up. Yeah. 9 times out of 10, he's going to find his front and create quick play the ball speed. And off goes New South Wales. No disrespect to Max King, he doesn't have the leg speed of Spencer Leniu, so I thought it was a smart play.
But maybe that's symptomatic of Queensland, right? That they got beaten through the middle. They didn't. They tried to take New South Wales on, but weren't good enough. And then they choose not to kick to Spencer Leniu. I mean, maybe you're right, Jimmy. Maybe in hindsight they should have kicked it to Spencer. Just tried to whack him. Just to get a reaction.
Yeah, well, that's it. And to rattle the cages because, and almost to make the statement of, you think you can come through our middle? Well, good luck.
Yeah, and you do that, you bash Spencer in that kickoff, and that gets the crowd. Because the crowd gets taken out the game.
Spencer wants that.
The crowd sort of got taken out the game a bit, Josh, because, you know, we're obviously Queensland were struggling. So maybe you bring them back into the game if you hammer Spencer. Mind you, maybe Spencer hammers you and it's even worse. But
it has the potential to be an all or nothing play. Yeah. We see him take those kickoff runs for the Sydney Roosters, though. So some teams do kick to him. So it's either in some teams' game plan to always kick left, or let's go and take Spencer Leniu on.
Well, if you've got Nelson Asafa-Solomona, if you're kicking off to a right normally, like if I see him on position and parked on that side, I think it's smart to kick to the other side. No, like you just don't kick to your big boppers. It's just too much of a gamble.
This is where it gets interesting, and for me, it's on the kicker.
Okay.
Because trust me, when you're running down there, if the kicker has a poor kick, you're screwed. But if you actually land it right in the corner, you have a better opportunity to go and tee off on somebody. So maybe the tactic would be let's not like kick to Spencer. Let's kick so the ball lands right in the corner, and then we actually gain the ascendancy, get right, which you should be trying to do anyway. But it makes he stutters his run, and then we get him, and then it takes away his play 2 or play 3.
I agree. That's best case scenario, but to get that kick position right in the corner is like almost striking a 40-20. Like the percentage for that is slim, in my opinion. Yes, if it pulls off, great, but how many opportunities are you going to get at that? Well, how many times do you see it in the game, really?
Well, the idea is you don't concede too many tries, and then
that would have been good.
That would be nice.
Yeah, we didn't kick off to Spencer Leniu because they didn't score. But it is interesting. You know, was anyone up for that contest? Was anyone up for the confrontational. Like, I think Tino's probably your man there, and personally, I think it would make for great viewing to see them go up against each other. I understand why you don't kick that way, but it was interesting that for me, the fact that they kicked left first and then they kick right, it says we're definitely not kicking to him.
Yeah.
Which I think then that
Solid.
it's kind of it's complex, because what you do is by not kicking to Spencer in that situation and purposely changing the side that you kick to, you give him that feeling of, these guys are scared of me.
Yeah.
They're scared of me. So say if they'd have kicked right the whole time and he parks on the left, there's nothing to it. But the fact that they changed, he now has that mentality of they don't want a piece of my action. Yeah. And
unless they do kick to Max King, he comes in for play 2, and they absolutely go after him then.
But they didn't.
But they didn't.
No.
But it's not just, it doesn't just send a message to Spencer that, hey, they don't want to kick to me. It actually sends a message to that entire New South Wales side. They don't want to bar a Spencer.
Yeah.
You know, so, and that gives them, puts a bit more pep in their step, right? So
exactly.
Yeah.
This is, when we talk about like momentum swings in the game, there's feelings in the game as well, and how you feel. If you're Isaiah Yeo, if you're, some of the Angus Crichton, Hudson Young off the bench, or any of those forwards as well, like Liam Martin, you're going, they've changed for this man. And it's like, hey,
they don't want a piece of it.
That mentality within the game, you're growing.
Yeah, I know we've been speaking about this topic quite a while, but if you think about the start of the game, right, the first kick off of the game, Queensland, who do they kick to? Mitch Barnett. Who was on the other side? Payne Haas.
Yeah.
So I don't think there was a necessary a kicking plan on which side we're going to kick to. I think it was just going to kick to the guy that's not going to cause that much of a dent in our defensive line and will absolutely gang tackle. And I think Mitch Barnett was one. I know he's still a big boy, but when you're looking at Payne Haas, who's the best front row in the world, you're not going to kick to him either. So I don't necessarily...
I think you'd kick to your favourite side to start the game. I really do. Like the kickers would have a favoured side to kick to, but which I think you should stay true to.
But what if it's not working for you? Because I've played in games where we've kicked to one side every time, and next thing you know, we're losing by 24-0.
Yeah.
And then we're like, okay, maybe we should just kick it to the other bloke. We just figured this out too late. But I don't know. I don't know if it was a tactical play, but I think in Queensland's defence, I feel like they just kicked it to the guy that had less impact.
Yeah. But again, the consequence of that is...
Yeah, the mindset. The psyche behind it all. I get that.
Whilst if you'd gone out there and kicked it to Spencer and actually flattened him, that would have lifted that entire Queensland team. And I said,
or even just manage the tackle.
Yeah.
You like Spencer's going to bring it back full throttle, and he does it for the Sydney Roosters. But not every kickoff run is someone whacks him or he marches down the field. A lot of the times, in fact, the overwhelming majority of the time, like he makes a good run, but it's managed. And if you do that, maybe that just you don't need to go and tee off on him. Maybe you just, hey boys, let's just make sure we kick to him. Let's reduce the impact of it and win that psychological warfare.
I've played with Spencer, and he's got a few screws missing. And even if the Queensland did kick off to him, right? Say they definitely put on a massive shot and they won that tackle, he would love that even more. He'd get up and he'd be like, I want more. Come again. So then he's now getting into Queensland guys' heads. So like,
you can't win either way.
We can't win. So, and he's, as a front rower, Jimmy, like he's built to the ground. He's not overly tall. So to get stuck under him.
But like I said, just manage the tackle.
Yeah.
But they weren't managing the tackle.
If that's your favoured kickoff side, you don't need to make a statement. Just manage the tackle and don't play into the hands of we're running away from him.
But they couldn't manage they weren't winning the ruck.
No.
So like if they were winning the ruck,
but they should be able to.
No, they should.
Players at their disposal, they should be able to.
I totally agree. That's inexcusable.
Harry Grant, a poor showing from him.
Underdone.
Well, was he underdone? Because there was a couple of moments that really stood out for me. And it was him coming from outside in. So he forced an error. I think it was either on Nathan or Mitch Moses. in the early exchanges where he rushed up in defence.
Yeah, it was on Nathan.
And he forces the error on Nathan Cleary, right? And it's an outside-in defensive play, which came off.
Lucky.
But it's not the way to do things because you create more of a problem on your outside. If Nathan executes that play,
that was stripped for numbers.
They stripped him for numbers. Now, I think it was Angus Crichton that went on a bit of a run. Mo Fodawaker pulls him down by the shore. Angus Crichton maybe got the offload, and Moses, yes, went on that half line break. Mo Fodawaker pulls him down. It's then last play. This is just before Zach Lomax's first try, and the kick pressure from Grant, especially under pressure, especially when your line isn't set, he actually comes from outside in, which then forces New South Wales to start to run on last, which led to the try. And Harry Grant was guilty of it a number of times. The outside in defensive play, it ended up costing him that first try.
I mean, I agree he was underdone. He only played one game in a month, more than that.
But those plays, they're not being underdone.
But if you're fatigued, Jimmy, don't you make poor decisions?
Judgment's impaired for sure.
Look, I mean, Harry's had great success coming off the bench in Origin in the past. Ben Hunt started games for Queensland, and Harry's come in after 20 minutes or whatever. And mate, look, Ben Hunt won't be available for Origin 2, which I think that we'll talk Queensland changes soon, but maybe. Look, I think Harry will be better, and I think Harry was trying to make an impact, right? I think they needed someone to change the momentum in that game, and Harry took it upon himself to try and change the momentum, and it didn't always work. A couple of times it came off, a lot of times it didn't. And I think Harry will be better game 2 because he's going to have more football under his belt. And look, I mean, he's a really good footballer. Harry's a great player, right? He's the best hooker in the game, and I just think they were the entire Queensland team had a bad night. Night on Wednesday night, right? And he was part of that, but. As I said, he'll be better. He'll have more footy under his belt by Origin 2.
For sure.
And that's really important for him and for Queensland. Because he is so integral. When Harry's off, he almost sets the tempo now for that team because he's so important to them now. As I said, with Ben Hunt not available, he's starting that game and he's just invaluable.
Yeah, personally, I can't speak highly enough of him. He had a number of mistakes in that game, the kick for Coates that led to the 7 tackle set. It was
the ruck as well. The ruck infringement. I think he kicked the ball.
Yes, he did. Yeah.
Silly errors again. Self-sabotaging themselves.
Even that. Well,
I thought a couple of those decisions were dud decisions, though. By the way, by Ashley Clark.
Like which?
Well, I think it was that. Was it that one? There were two in quick succession.
Harry Grant hasn't put his.
There were two. No, it wasn't that way. There was two in quick succession on the Queensland line. There was one when DCE got done for lying in the ruck, and I thought that was a tough call.
I think,
and there was another one around that point as well. I can't remember what the exact call was, but I thought there were two calls in quick succession that were tough calls on Queensland.
What's that, mate? Oh, the late pull.
But that was black and white. It's like black and white. He's found his front. His elbows made contact to the ground, and then Munster's gone for a second effort and pulled that. It's black and white.
I thought he lost the ball.
Klein was standing right there. He's seen it. Yeah. So
I thought it was a tough call. And maybe it's my maroon's eyes.
Yeah,
maroon eyes. But
it's interesting as well. We're talking on the refs. Like when you're playing at Suncorp, the rub of the green always goes to the Queenslanders every single time. And as New South Welshmen, we say it every year after year. But this year was different. I feel like we definitely obviously won the penalty count and Kleiny, but the thing is, again, like you go back to it, like all those penalties are black and white.
No, I didn't.
In my eyes. Maybe I'm being a bit biased. Jimmy, as a neutral, how did you see it?
Look, for State of Origin, I thought there was a lot of penalties.
Yeah.
But again, there was, And again, like the facial from Tino in the early exchanges. But now, is this the message that the NRL are sending through their officials?
For sure.
Well, you hope not, Jimmy, because I think Origin's traditionally been a game of low penalties and low stoppages, and that's when Origin's at its best. As I said, I thought it was a bit of a bludger of a game because there were just too many stoppages. You've got to let some of that stuff go.
The question I would have is, were the players forewarned? Like, did they get the directive that we're not going to stand for any messing around here, like anything like facials. That's because really, did you notice New South Wales didn't revert to those tactics?
I think there's always been a nudge, wink, wink that you can get away with a bit more in Origin.
It has, yes.
Over 40 years, that's been the way Origin's been refereed. But I think the other night, he didn't let anything go. Well, last night, sorry. He pulled everything up. Whilst in the past, they would have let some of that stuff slide because it's Origin.
But
you let it go.
What's a head scratcher is, like, prior to State of Origin, like, the number one thing on the referee's mind, any contact to the head, it's an instant sin bin. Instant. So for players like Carrigan, Tino to have their arms and forearms wrapped around New South Welshman's head, why? Why? Like, if the game wants to change its identity, right? And if they want to showcase our game, what's the number one product going around at the moment? State of Origin. They don't want that stuff in there.
Yeah, but what's worse, Josh, is having a game with 20 penalties.
Yeah, I get that. I totally get
that kills the game
and as
even
a
more.
fan, as an ex-player, former player, I want to see a bit of rub in the face stuff. You know, I don't mind an elbow to the face, but that's me, right? But the game's not there anymore. That's not the game. The game's evolved. And we have to accept it for what it is now.
I think discipline will be at the top of Coach Slater's areas of attention.
Yeah, well, he said that after the game. He said we crueled ourselves in this game. So, you know, we'll talk about, as I said, we'll talk about personnel changes. But the first thing they've got to change is their attitude, particularly if that's the way the game's going to be refereed.
If they're the rules of engagement, if this is the new state of play,
you've got to adjust to it.
And you do really, and like that's why my question is were New South Wales forewarned and were Queensland not? Because it did seem that New South Wales didn't want to engage in that sort of style of tactical play.
I think Queensland went into this game too emotional. You're making silly mistakes like that, making silly penalties like that. That's all emotion, in my opinion. Maybe throw in a bit of fatigue in there because they hurt themselves in that first 20 minutes, and that's where most of your energy goes into. But end of the day, it's all controlled. Like, they could avoid that very easily. If Queensland get in that arm wrestle early in the game and don't cough up that early field possession, it's a completely different game, in my opinion. They still have energy in the tank. They still can go toe-to-toe with New South Wales. But they just kept coughing up that ball and gifting New South Wales field position down in Queensland's territory, which ultimately hurt them in the end.
Yeah, you're sure right. Boys, we're going to get into our Hyundai hybrid hero from game one. Hyundai pre-offs is now on. Jump into offers across a wide range of new and demonstrated Hyundai models. Don't wait. Visit your participating Hyundai dealer today. I'll start with this. I'll give you some time to think about who your Hyundai hybrid hero was. For me, I'm going to go with Zach Lomax. Yeah. He plays a hybrid role. Is he a centre? Is he a winger? That question is done and dusted. I have got so much admiration for Zach. I saw him progress through when I was at the Dragons. He oozed class. You could see he was going to be a star of the game, but I didn't think in the fashion that he is now a star of the game. That second run in State of Origin, was brilliant. That was so intentional. That was so forceful. I didn't think that the young Zach Lomax, that this was the classy centre three-quarter we were all anticipating him to become. To have that powerful run, he was sensational. I personally, as hard as this is to say, obviously being an ex-front rower, Source, you're a winger. I think Zach Lomax probably should have got man of the match. He was outstanding. He was excellent. The attacking runs, the attacking threat on that edge, he was phenomenal.
With Zach, if we can talk about him for a second, he was always had massive wraps around him, right? I think Freddie called him the gifting one in his early days. But it took him a while to actually reach the feet he's at now. Is that fair to say? Like, what do you think held him back? Do you think all the outside noise kind of got to him? Because Zach always had that brilliance, but he was never able to play consistent footy in his career until now.
Well, probably what messed him up a little bit was a different position change and the thought that he may become the Dragons' fullback.
Oh, yes.
And there was a pre-season spent there where Zach was training in the fullback position, swapping between centre and fullback. And obviously he was very young as well. Probably wasn't really sure about who he was with himself, where he feel he could impact the game. He was talked up as well. And as a teenager, dealing with that would be difficult. Would be, everybody's got this level of expectation. And, the move to the wing and the way he's changed his attitude to football has been absolutely outstanding.
He looks at peace. He looks content. And he plays just freely now.
He's just got a great attitude to the game.
Yeah.
Like, really, when you watch him play and you think about what happened last year, moving on from the Dragons, most people put the cue on the rack and go, I'm just going to think about next year. He didn't. He earned that Origin spot. Like, now when you look at potential changes in either side with Zach Lomax and New South Wales, you're not moving him. Like Tommy Turbo may be fit, but you're not changing that team, and you're definitely not moving Zach Lomax, the number one winger in the game. Source, who was your Hyundai hybrid hero?
Stephen Crichton. I think going into this game, he had a bit of a injury cloud over him, particularly around his quad. It looked like he had no issues with that coming into the game. He absolutely contained Hammer, who's arguably one of the quickest players in the game. He had his vice grips wrapped around him. He absolutely smothered him whenever the ball got shifted to that edge. And to play through that injury, he was probably at 50%, let's be honest. And to have that performance, I think was unbelievable. And it just shows his character. Like, I remember him coming through as an 18-year-old, 19-year-old. He was just beyond his years. He was so mature. He's a student of the game. And he's just an out-and-out competitor. Like, he does not want to miss on anything. So, Stephen Crichton for me. Can I mention as well to the Queenslanders, there's one guy I need to mention, and it's Rob Toyer. Like, he needs to get... we need to give him some praise. Like, I was a bit critical with him. Like, coming into this team, our second youngest Queensland debutant ever, 10 NRL games under his belt.
Yep.
And to have Latrell up against him and to contain him throughout the whole game, I thought he was top three best players for the Queenslanders. So big shout out to him as well.
Really? Who's your Hyundai?
Can I have a Queensland? No. No. I mean, Payne Haas was the man of the match, and I thought he was unbelievable. I remember writing a column a couple of years ago saying, when is Payne Haas going to dominate Origin like he does club footy? And I think we saw it the other night. I mean, he owned Origin. And I think there was a question mark around Payne early in his career that maybe he was so dominant in clubland and so hard to control, and he didn't always carry that form into Origin. But I think we've seen now that, they couldn't stop him. That first stint the other night set the game up for New South Wales. I think he ran for 80 metres, had a few offloads, a few busted tackles, and it just set the tempo for them. So, I mean, he's the bloke for me. Rightly judged man of the match. I thought Brian Tyler was very good as well, actually. You mentioned Zach Lomax. Aside from the sin binning, but I think...
Was it a sin bin?
I thought it was a sin bin.
We'll chat that
But I think he ran for 200 metres or so. Those two blokes, Lomax and Tyler, unbelievable.
Obviously, Joey Tarpany doesn't get to play in that arena, but the performances like that cement Payne Haas as the number one front rower in the game.
I think so, Jimmy. I'd put Tino on that level with him as well. I reckon Tino, Payne and Joey Tarpany is probably a struck match between them. Aiden Fanua-Blake maybe as well. But I think Payne's obviously the guy at the moment. And we're about to see he's about to potentially go to market November 1. Well, the Broncos are trying to sign him now, but if he goes to market on November 1, he's going to get an astronomical
What
deal.
could he attract, Brady?
Well, I would have thought by the end of that, if someone does a 5-year deal with Payne Haas, I reckon he's going to nudge $2 million by the end of that deal.
Would he be he be?
Well, you think about the salary cap, and at the end of that deal,
at the
end of it, by the end of say he gets a deal that runs from 20 because he's off contract at the end of 26. So say he gets a deal that runs from 27 to 32, right? The cap's going to go up. If they get the TV deal they want, the cap's going to go up 20, 30, 40%.
Yep.
He's going to be nudging $2 million. I mean, he's going to get at least, I would have thought, 1.2, 1.3 in 2027. And then you've got a broadcast deal after that. So
that would obviously cement him to be the highest paid front row of all time.
By the length of a straight.
But do the Broncos have the cap space to
allow for that? Well, that's the issue, isn't it? And that's the problem at the moment for them. They're juggling. They've got so many balls they're juggling. Cobbo. They haven't announced Katoni Staggs yet. They're trying to get Reynolds done. They've got all these balls they're juggling at the moment. And in the background, they've got Payne Haas to deal with. So I think that's the problem for them. Look, Payne Haas, Adam's the short-term priority, Adam Reynolds. But Payne's the long-term priority. He's the one, and I don't think he wants to leave Brisbane.
I don't think they can win a comp without him.
No.
I agree.
Like, when you talk of all these players, and obviously we know the importance of the middle, they can't win a comp without Payne Haas. Absolutely.
No, I agree with
Who could try and sign him though? Who's got the
Perth.
besides Perth?
Well, a lot of teams would clear that. Like
The Dogs had a go at him a few years ago,
you'd
Jimmy.
look to clear the decks. I don't think that will happen now with Leo Thompson coming in.
No,
but I think you'd be looking to be clubs shuffling the decks, trying to arrange, that sort of price that really said. But big shout out to Hyundai hybrids. I drive one myself. They are all class. Love my Hyundai hybrids. The Brian Toto sin binning sauce, you mentioned it. I was listening, I obviously watched the game on Channel 9, listening to the highlights on Fox and with KO. And Greg Alexander was like adamant that this was an awful decision.
Awful.
Yeah, he was up in arms. He couldn't believe. He was like, what is he supposed to do? Really, I'll come to you as a Queenslander.
Well,
you think it's a correct call?
Yeah, because I think initially, yes, he played for the ball, but when he realised he couldn't get it, his mindset changed to tackling him in midair. And Xavier Coates had basically a free shot at the ball. He catches that 9 times out of 10, but he got tackled midair, and that's what forced the ball loose. So for me, that's a professional foul. It was over the try line. It's Xavier Coates probably scores that try if he doesn't get tackled by Brian Toto midair. So that's a professional foul. That's a sin bin.
I think Reedy's bang on. I think
you agree with me.
I am agreeing with you, believe it or not. It's hurting me, but I agree with you. I think the first mistake that Brian made was I thought he was very deep on those kicks, and I understand why he was doing that as a former winger. Like, he wants to get as much leg drive into the catch. But when you're coming up against Xavier Coates, you're never, ever going to out-jump him. So the first thing Brian needs to do is hold his ground, let Xavier take that ball, and once he lands on that ground, he just absolutely smothers him and wraps him up. And Brian Torr's got the strength to bundle him over the sideline. Plan B is, going into game 2, you got to swap Latrell and Brian every single time on those good ball kicks. The only time
so you reckon Latrell goes back to,
without a doubt, to take those big kicks, to take those crossfield kicks, let's face it, Brian's not going to out-jump Xavier Coates ever. Latrell might have a decent crack at it, but yeah, I think there needs to be a bit of a change there.
They switched Lomax during the game, from memory, didn't they?
In the sin bin, and actually Rory Daly said it at half-time.
Yeah.
So they put Lomax over to Coates and left Val not unmarked, but yeah.
But if you think about it, it was a smart decision, and it was a masterstroke, because the only time I was threatened as a New South Welshman was whenever Queensland shifted to that edge.
And you could see it. That Harry Grant kick early in the game showed that was a key plank in their plan for that game. Target Brian Toto was Xavier Coates, which was a smart play, right? Because 9 times out of 10, as I said, he wins that battle.
There was 2 moments when I was threatened as a New South Welshman. Was whenever they kicked to Xavier Coates in good ball, and whenever they were shifting the ball in the middle third area and trying to strip us for numbers down our left edge.
Yeah, on the right-hand side. There was once where if Toyer
passed the ball.
He just missed it.
He just held the ball, didn't he?
And that's actually very smart by Billy Slater to implement that in his attacking structure, because as an edge, like when you're coming out of yardage, you're normally condensed and you can press that defensive line. But when you get to around that 40-metre line, it's almost like, what do we do here? Do we still stay tight, nice and tight, or do we start stretching across the field? And as well, when you're around that 40-metre line as a winger, you're like, you got to defend the 40-20 now. You got to communicate with your fullback. You got to bring numbers, drag them across when you're seeing like a massive backline shift. And obviously New South Wales didn't handle that well, but Queensland definitely showed that card, so I think they'll be better prepared game 2.
For me on the sin bin, it doesn't matter what your intention is. Like,
it's the outcome that matters.
It's the outcome. Yeah. And the outcome and the action was he denied Xavier Coates a try-scoring opportunity.
Agreed.
And then therefore it is professional foul, which then therefore is a sin bin. Yeah. The intention is to go and compete for the football, but the actions are he denies Xavier Coates a try scoring opportunity.
What I saw, he came in to compete for the football. When they made contact with each other, he knew he didn't obviously get the jump. He's then gone to hit his arm. That didn't come off, and then the third effort was he wrapped him up in the air, which is, I agree, black and white sin bin.
Personally, I don't think anyone can dispute it, and I think the fact that it didn't have that much of an impact on the game. It's not as consequential. Had Queensland have come back in, I think we'd have heard more of it from New South Wales, and we could deliberate that. But for me, it doesn't matter the intention. The outcome was he denied him an opportunity, and then therefore professional foul.
I agree.
And therefore sin bin. No qualms from me. And I think really, if you take your emotion out from it, if you'd expect that to happen. Where do Queensland go? Really, Shane Webke called for Queensland to drop DCE, move on. Where do they go from here? We've obviously spoke about the discipline, but is there time for personnel change?
Well, they can't make a million changes because they don't have a million players to choose from. DC is the big one. He was under immense pressure coming into that game because of everything that's happened this year. He didn't play great. He wasn't on his Pat Malone on that front, and they didn't really have a chance because their forwards got bashed. If I'm Billy Slater, I'm saying to DCE, go back to clubland, sort your future out, because ever since the drama happened at Manly and all the talk about the Roosters, his form's gone backward. And it's a you can't tell me it's not a distraction. So he's the captain of that football team. Remove the distraction, announce what you're doing, sort it out, sign the deal with the Roosters, clear that air, and then I would, depending on his form the next week or two, I'd pick him again because I think he's warranted that. He deserves that with what he's done over the past 10 years or whatever. But it's a really tough call because, like, Tommy Dearden's a really good footballer, and I think maybe Kurt Mann, in that utility spot, maybe Kurt Mann gives you more than what Dearden would.
In terms of the DC sorting out his future, the enemy is time, because
we've got 2 weeks to do it, Jimmy. I mean, we all think it's done. Why can't you just sign the contract, announce it, move on?
It's a distraction, really, though. Like, I think going into Origin camp actually takes himself away from that distraction.
But he got asked about it the first day of Origin camp. It was the first thing people asked him, mate, what are you doing? What's going on with your future? And as I said, I think it's affected his form.
Can we be real? Can we be real right now? It's a done deal. We know where he's going.
Well, then announce it. Get it done.
But why does he need to announce it when he knows in the back of his mind where he's going?
Because I think it's a distraction for everyone else, Josh.
I know what you're saying,
and
really.
It has impacted his form.
It has impacted his form. I don't think announcing it will change anything.
Yeah.
But what will happen is, look, say it gets announced next week, then we've got one round of football before they go into camp, and then what will the chat be in camp? It will be, what will the questions for DCE will come about his future.
No, well, you announce it. You announce why you've done it. You talk then you come into Origin with clean air. It's done and dusted.
Nah.
I
don't think there's not enough time.
Yeah, I think unfortunately there's not enough time there to get that.
Don't pick him then. Leave him out. I think I'd keep him there. I thought it was a huge game for him and his future at Origin level. And yes, he was poor, but
everyone was.
But everyone was. So I think you keep him around. I think there's some other changes you can make, though. I think you bring in Corey Horsburgh because I think we lacked impact off the bench.
I agree.
And I think he gives you a bit more impact off the bench. Jai Arrow.
I was going to say, just Jai Arrow and Corey Horsburgh, two characters.
Two firebrands.
That aren't afraid to mix it. You can imagine, when we're talking about kicking off to Leniu, you can imagine Horsburgh, you can imagine Jai both going, we'll take some of that.
Let's go. I agree.
I think they need to, I'm going to throw a little left fielder at you, right? A little left field one. They need some size and impact off the bench. And I haven't seen a heap of Josiah Puhulu, who's now in Melbourne, gone from the Gold Coast to Melbourne. He's a Queenslander, Ipswich boy. I'd almost look at him.
I almost say he's playing better than Fodawaker. Let's be real.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. Like, I honestly believe Jai was a massive loss for him. Like, if there's one person that lives and breathes Queensland, it's Jai. Very similar to Munster. They just turn into different players whenever they put that maroon jumper on. And I thought that was a bit of a miss by Billy Slater. I really do. Like, I feel like he would have provided more of an impact than a Trent Loiero. No disrespect to those kind of guys. But, I looked at that bench and I was like, who am I scared? Like, who's going to provide that impact? Do you feel like they missed that?
Yeah, you know what? You're right with what you say about Giant, especially in recent weeks for South Sydney. Played exceptionally well. Him and Kaloma-Tangi have been outstanding. Yeah. I think his form warrants a selection now. He is the larrikin style of person.
Well, Horsburgh's a bit like that too, Jimmy,
exactly. I think you need something a little bit different.
I think what really hurts Queensland is, and what's eroded our depth a bit, is having no Tommy Gilbert.
Yeah.
Tommy Flegler hasn't played in 2, and we miss Tom Flegler and Tommy Gilbert so much because they bring aggression, and particularly Flegler, like he brings size and aggression, and obviously
Flegler's not going to be back. Gilbert's not going to be. No. Gilbert's
That's
not
the
going to be
problem.
back.
They're both not going to be back. So
I think Arrow would be justified.
Arrow, Horsburgh, bang! I think you instantly bring them in.
You've got a podcast starting with JR. Is that why? Is that why you're so?
That's why you're over it.
Is that what it is?
No, it's not that at all. It's not that at all.
Get the plug in now.
If there's one person,
get the plug in.
It's unscripted. It's my new show. Check it out. We've got a bit of a cool series with Jai now around Origin time. So listen, if there's one person I don't want to compliment, it's Jai Arrow. But like I'm just speaking facts. Like it's the reality. I feel like they really missed him, and he'd be itching to get back in that arena. He'd be perfect for game 2. And I think as well around the DCE chat, I think this will be his last Origin series. Yeah. Let's face it. Tommy did, and I think it's his time to really take that maroon jumper and claim it as his. But right now, I don't think dropping DCE will be beneficial for the Queenslanders. I feel like they need to pick and stick with him. Yes, didn't have his best night for game 1. Things will definitely change for game 2, I feel. Not only for DCE, but the whole team. And if you take out your number 1 general, your number 1 servant for Queensland going to game 2, it's going to cause an adverse effect.
I've got to say though, Josh, I reckon if heaven forbid Queensland lose in Perth, that's it. You move on.
I agree.
You go into a must-win game. I think DCE has done enough and can bring enough to help Queensland improve and maybe get the win. One person that I would like to see come back into the frame is Selwyn Cobbo.
Yeah.
I agree. They need a bigger body.
Where he fits in.
Well, you can't drop Toya now. Maybe Val Holmes is the one.
I think
Val's one under pressure.
That's probably where you're going. Where you look at it and you go, well, where does Cobbo fit in? Is Reece Walsh back and available? Because Ponga wasn't great.
I think Ponga's playing better than Reece. Yeah, if we're going to be,
I don't think Reece will be back.
With Cobbo coming in, you're saying you can't drop Toya.
No way.
But why?
Because he was good.
Yeah, because
he's one of the better players, Jimmy, for me.
He was the only shining light.
Yeah, he was a shining light, but that doesn't mean that he's undroppable.
No, well, no, he's not undroppable.
He's played 10 games of NRL.
I thought Val had a tough night. Val's not a. I don't think Val's a winger anymore.
I don't think Val is a winger
anymore. He got peppered as well. Like the kicking plan was to kick to him all game. Like Nathan was just absolutely dropping dimes on his head and trying to get a contest with Zach Lomax.
Well, so if you bring Cobbo in for Val on the wing, which I think could happen, then you've got that decision of the youth and played a really good game, Toya versus Val in the centres.
I'm just looking when the other one's Murray Taulagi.
Yeah.
I'm just looking when he's back.
Can I be real? I don't think you can drop Val. You lose obviously your goal kicking duties, and also you lose your. I just feel like you lose a lot of experience and a lot of leg speed coming out of Val, and I feel like, Selwyn being out of the game, is he coming underdone?
Cobbo's named this week on the wing.
Interesting.
On the wing, I think you that bigger body You've got to bring him in. Imagine that the two wingers there. You'd have Coates on one, Cobbo on the other. They are strong carriers.
You've got two kick targets as well, but I don't know. I feel safer with Val. If I'm going to be real,
on the wing,
I feel like you could force a couple of areas out of Cobbo, but with Val there, I feel like he's just got a calmer head. But
you can play Val in the centre. You'd have to drop Rob Toya and put Val into the centres.
Well, you got to roll. You got to roll the dice. You got to make some changes. Can't be happy with that side, given they missed 48 tackles. Defensively, they were horrific.
I think it was more from
you've got to make
attitude,
some
though.
changes.
I don't think it's the I don't think it's the talent. It's the attitude.
There's not the
They came in with way too much emotion. They had obviously those mental demons from last year in the decider. I definitely feel like that played a part. And again, like I just feel like there was so many silly errors which they just compounded. And that's all avoidable. And it was 18-6. Yeah, Nath missed 3 kicks, but still wasn't that far off.
But like we've already said, New South Wales
didn't have their best game
had a number of errors, and especially coming out of yardage as well. Like they made some key errors after half time with 12 players. You know, Latrell spilled the ball.
That's interesting, yeah. Well, that moment,
Lomax spilled the ball.
If Latrell doesn't spill that ball, do Queensland score at all?
Yeah.
Well, this is an area of concern when you look at it. Like they had a scrum on play 1. Val gets thrown over the sideline.
That was
Like, and I know from the result of that was Queensland score the Nanai shot on Latrell Mitchell, but they had the man advantage, and on literally the first play they get bundled over the sideline. Like that comes down to the spine players.
And
Val really should be doing better there. That was a huge they got let off the hook there, Queensland.
We all thought as a Queenslander, we thought that spine. If we would have a hope in that game, that spine would lead us to victory.
Yeah.
None of them played well.
I agree.
I think Cam Munster missed 9 tackles, which is unheard of. Kalen was quiet. You mentioned Harry, how off Harry was. DCE wasn't good. Like they were 4 of the worst players.
You can have the best game managers in the world in your team, but if you've got no go forward, those big boppers laying the platform, they can't do anything. That's the reality. You can't if you're not creating quick ruck speed. Those playmakers like Munster, DCE. They're not going to shine.
But I think that spine's good enough. It warrants another opportunity.
I agree.
It was you know.
Maybe you start. Maybe you go to Perth and maybe you don't start Harry Grant. Maybe you start Kurt Mann at hooker potentially. Can you do that?
You can't play Kurt Mann at hooker in his first Origin game.
Why not?
Because he's not played hooker all year, and he's not played hooker his whole career.
He hasn't.
Has he never played
Kurt Mann, I don't think so.
Okay.
Not that I was with him at the Dragons. I remember him coming on at lock. Maybe would have filled in it.
Filled in there at times? Sure. I don't know.
It's
just throwing a few left fielders out there, Jimmy. Maybe it takes Harry out of the firing line for the opening 20 minutes. If that's worked better.
Could you put Ruben Cotter at dummy half to start the game?
I question his service out of dummy half, to be honest. Like he'll just bundle it off to,
but that,
a metre away. I don't think
all you need.
No, is it? When you're doing those
in the first 20 minutes, like maybe that's all you need.
The first 20 minutes, yeah.
Start him in a way to take Grant out of the opening exchanges. Put Cotter in at dummy half, and then bring Grant off the bench.
The other bloke we haven't spoken about for Queensland is Jaden Sewer. Maybe you pull Cotter out. Cotter's not really an edge player. Maybe you start Jaden Sewer on an edge and Cotter moves to the middle or comes off the bench.
I'm just going to say to you, I think Jai needs to start. I think Cotter off the bench, Jai needs to start. Cotter's got
on the edge.
Jai and Cotter got the versatility. They can play back row, lock, or prop, which is a bonus for Queensland. But I think Jai needs to start. Like, you can put him off the bench as well. He provide that impact, but like that first 20 minutes, we always talk about it in an Origin game. That's when the biggest bash and barge is going to happen. So let's wait and see.
Well, Coach Slater said you can't question the commitment and the effort. I think he's right in saying that. Laurie Daly also said, beware of the fight back. You'd be a fool to say that this series is over, but going to Perth, New South Wales will be heavy favourites.
Queensland's got a horrible record over there as well. I think a couple of times they've been flogged over in Perth, but...
They won in Adelaide.
Don't rule us out, Jimmy. Can't rule us out.
Absolutely not.
And Billy, we trust.
That'll be the worst thing for New South Wales going to the game too. Complacent, comfortable with, and happy with themselves with their last 2 victories over Queensland up in Suncorp. They just got to stick to their game, stick to their process, and you know what? It's 0-0 at the moment.
Well, you just got to just replicate what you did in Brisbane, right? Because Queensland had no answers in Brisbane. So,
look, we spoke about DC, right? To be fair, like Cleary Moses didn't light the world on fire either.
No.
So, like, you could have an argument for both sides, right? Was Moses and Cleary the right option? Was leaving Jerome Luai out in opposed to putting Mitch in? did that.
But I think they didn't have to set the world on fire, Josh, because they were just doing it so easily.
The game plan
They didn't need to.
Yeah.
To roll
They
through
just
the
had
middle.
to. They just had to aim up when they were needed.
They just needed to
isolated
kick
moments
well.
in that game.
Well,
just nail those moments.
To be fair to like people talking about Nathan and he didn't own Origin. Mate, 2 tries. He played a magnificent role in the Toto one where he goes straight into the and I mean so straight and so square. The ball to Moses was sublime. Moses and that's combination at its best.
I agree.
Cleary to Moses to Latrell to Toto in the corner. That was special. That was that combination in full swing, working well, coming off, creating opportunities, scoring tries, and then the double pump on the second Lomax try. Like people talking about Cleary not dominating Origin, mate, he had some magnificent moments.
Agreed.
The goal kicking, they were from the sideline, the missed field goal. I mean, we expect this like untouchable, mistake-free, holier than now performance. But he played really well.
I agree. That mention as well, Lomax's second try, that double pump,
just fooled.
That's just instincts. I don't know if anyone else could have done that, to be totally honest with you. Like that double pump, Hammer had to commit on that lead runner, which obviously freed up the sweeper and then obviously led to a try. I think it was Dylan Edwards was at the back. But yeah, it was a good performance. But the scary thing is he can go up another level.
The problem for Nathan is he set the bar so high. I call it the David Fafita syndrome. David Fafita beats 9 blokes and scores a try, and everyone expects it every time he plays the game.
Yeah.
Nathan Cleary, dominates for Penrith, plays 20 minutes, the greatest 20 minutes in a grand final in a long time. And everyone just expects that's Nathan Cleary. He's got to do that every time he rolls out. But sometimes the beauty of what he does is he just controls games and picks his moments to come into games, and that changes the game. That wins the game.
That's one of his best attributes. It's just that calming influence.
It's about tempo, right? Halves talk about tempo, playing with tempo, and he's got a great ability to change his tempo during the game and change the tempo of the game as a result of that.
You mentioned a name that I'm quite intrigued to see what happens for him here on in. David Fafita.
Big Dave. He's running again. He should be back soon. Whether he's in first grade's a question.
There's some X factor off the bench that Billy's there.
But Billy's never really shown any desire.
He hasn't got the engine. He hasn't got the engine. He's probably a bit maybe too erratic as well. Like you don't know what you're going to get from David. Like his Rocks and Diamonds classic, but again, like where's he going to end up? Clubland. Like he's not going to stay at Gold Coast.
That's another story for another day.
Sorry, man. I'm getting a bit excited here.
You're distracting us a little bit. Also, just on the makeup of the bench, Bo Fairmore only got on. The game was probably
minutes.
done. I think Billy will rethink his strategy for his bench. He needs to do something different. I think Fairmore, Liero, they're not that impact style of player.
We spoke about Joe Arrow potentially starting on the edge rather than Ruben Cotter. I mean, he's got Bo Fairmore on the bench, didn't get much time, so he's an option to potentially start on the edge as well if need be.
You're right on what you say about Cleary, though, because he has these supernova moments. We expected if he plays a trial, if he plays a trial and it's like, he didn't
do anything.
And then you look at the stats, he's got 3 try assists.
Yeah, he didn't get the game by the scruff of the neck and absolutely just inspire this grand final. Not every game.
Jimmy, I have been one of those blokes who's questioned, because Buzz and I have had these arguments about it. Buzz says he's up there with JT and Cam and all the greats of the game, and I said, well, no, he has to own Origin to do that. And I'm one of the doubters who says he hasn't owned Origin yet, and I don't think he's really owned Origin, but there's still time. And he's still won Origin Series. He's still led New South Wales to Origin Series wins. So maybe I'm being one of those harsh judges.
When I saw a stat yesterday, and I saw Cameron Smith playing, 42 Origin games? Isn't that 14 consecutive Origin, every single year?
Yeah.
Isn't that can we just take a moment to just think about how impossible that sounds?
It is actually insane.
Can Nathan do the same thing? He's still got time
potentially.
as well.
This time in 2024, New South Wales lost at home. We thought the series was over.
That was stark.
We thought the series was over. New South Wales game 2 down in Melbourne. were arguably part of the greatest 40 minutes performance in that first half that Origin has ever seen. They face Queensland in Queensland. They go up there, smash and grab victory. Can Queensland do the same, really?
Of course they can, Jimmy. Of course they can. We've done it many times, backs to the wall. Queensland's come back from the brink. And as I said, they'll make a few, I imagine they'll make a few changes. They fix up their discipline, and that gives them a fighting chance. And with that spine, I know that spine didn't play well the other night, but that spine, you get the best out of Carlin, the best of Cam Munster, the best of Harry, and the best of DCE, and they're capable of beating any team. So I have no fear that they can go to Perth and win. They don't have a great record over there. That's another issue they've got to overcome. But those blokes, as they always say, go back to club footy, play well, come into Origin, and fix your discipline up, make a couple of changes, and they can beat New South Wales. They're not unbeatable.
Sauce, you confident it's done?
I'm quietly confident.
That's one of my most hated phrases.
Quietly confident.
Because if you're quietly confident,
you're confident.
You're confident. Like, there's no need to say quietly. Like,
I actually knew that. I just wanted to say it to piss you off. No, I think New South Wales do go ahead and win the series. I am confident, but they have to be prepared for an ambush because Queensland aren't going to play the way they did. Queensland need to bring their boiler suits to Perth because they need to go toe-to-toe with New South Wales. They've shown their cards. They want to go through the middle. We all know that. But on the flip side of that is Queensland obviously going to keep targeting Xavier Coates in good ball. They're going to shift the ball to their right edge, coming out of yardage around that middle third. So they've shown those two cards, but they've got to be more disciplined and be happy to get in the arm wrestle with New South Wales, not turn over cheap field possession. They've got the strongest ball carries in the game, New South Wales, and to give them that much cheap ball, it obviously hurt Queensland.
We've got to find a way to stop Payne Haas as well.
100%.
That's the other big thing.
And the other thing is, we know Nathan's not going to miss that many conversions coming into game 2.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen again. So, I am confident. The only thing I'm worried about is complacency and New South Wales patting themselves on the back, being happy with that win.
Jim, you're a front row from way back. How do we stop Payne Haas?
Well, you stop Payne Haas, you got to work ridiculously hard at marker. You've got to work at marker. You can't allow him to get the ball on the advantage line, beat the markers, and dictate the terms. You have to think about what comes before Payne Haas, and I'm talking about the back three, the carries of Lomax and Toto. If you can win them or minimise the impact of them, then your whole defensive line is set. Like that's where Queensland struggled because, and their middle struggled because the back three weren't generating. They weren't bending the line back. So when you've got Lomax coming in, Toto coming in, they bend the line back. Yeah. You're defensively retreating. Yeah. It's going so quick. You're literally getting back on side. And then before you can even think about getting line speed, Payne Haas is on top of you. And you're basically in the chairs position. So instead of generating any movement forward, you're standing still. Your body is leaning back as opposed to leaning forward. You need to win those plays against Lomax, Toto, that starts with your kicking game, all those areas of the field. You limit his impact by what you do the work before. If you allow Payne Haas on the advantage line, play 3 into 4, you are cooked because he's got speed to beat you on the inside. So if you don't work from marker, so if that ruck's not controlled, and then the A defender's moving back, he actually has this great line that he runs where he goes up and then in behind the markers. And then you're one-on-one with him in the chairs position. Good luck.
God, I hope Billy's not watching this because you're bang on, Jimmy. Like, those big, tough ball carriers, they need to feel inside pressure from the marker. If you've got that distraction of the inside pressure and the marker coming straight at your legs, it takes away your leg drive, and it also takes away, like, me as a ball carrier to try and bend the line back and pump my legs as much as I can. If he's got that pressure, it'll obviously prevent and hinder the run and ultimately win the tackle.
Sometimes, Sauce, you don't even need to be overly aggressive in your pressure. It's just presence.
Yeah,
so
correct.
It takes that run away from Payne, which is one of his best runs. So if I'm at marker and I just say if Payne Haas is on my left, if I deal with the dummy half and step there and I'm present there, that cuts off his ability to run up straight and then in behind and get my
most vulnerable spot, right?
Which is the most vulnerable spot. But if I'm at marker and I'm not quite active, or if my A defender's retreating as well, we're vulnerable. And that's where the work is done. It's not necessarily like the mentality of I've got to go crazy at Marco and go and attack Payne Haas's legs. Just be present and shut down that run, and then maybe he skips across.
It's not only Payne, it's on Zach Lomax as well. It's Brian Dort.
They're just Isaiah punching through the middle as well.
Isaiah in particular, I think they're almost holding back because as usual, and he was really he throws a lot of feints like a boxer, Isaiah. He feints a lot. He you know what?
He's got a lot of movement.
If you watch boxers and they set things up and
he's got like a stutter here.
He feints and he plays and he looks like he's actually going to pass. He's very deceptive. And when you're defending, you look for cues. You look for signals that he's going to ball play, and he runs into the line as if he's going to play because. With his body movements, but he also the push support, which New South Wales had the energy to be in shape, and that fools them. Like if you run with support and you've got the size and the ability of Isaiah Yeo, that's why he's so successful, and that's why he was so successful.
I think his strength as well.
He's strong,
he's so strong, and I think. That as well, like the Queenslanders was going half into the tackle, and he was just marching. His post meters were huge.
Well, if you go up as a defender, if you go up and anticipate the pass, you're not committed to the tackle. Yeah. So I'd be a lot of the time you go up and you're thinking Isaiah's going to either tip on or go at the back. Then my job is to slide off Isaiah and go and help. So if you're going up with that mentality of I just need to first 3 steps. And not commit to the tackle and sort of go, but it's hard because he has good balance with it. But you've got to go up and go. I'm going to tackle Isaiah and not think about my next job.
Reed, sorry, Jimmy. Like Reedy's been getting constant messages, mate. You got anything for us, or what's coming through? Because I'm constantly hearing the vibration on the table.
Are there any injuries out of yesterday that?
I haven't checked. You haven't had time. I believe Val Holmes is going to play this week. I think actually it's an interesting story. Nathan Lawson looks like he'll play the rugby convert.
For the Dragons.
I know we're going to talk about the games. Yeah, it looks like he's going to play the Australian Sevens guy. They signed in the off season. So
whereabouts?
Well, I assume he'll play in the centres, Nathan Lawson. So
interesting. Another convert. Will he be as good as Mark?
He played at the Olympics.
Very impressive.
He played at the Olympics with Mark. Nathan Lawson. So, apparently I'm told Val's not playing. So there's one for you.
Well, the Bulldogs got the bye right this week.
Yes.
Perfect timing for Critter to have a rest. It'd be interesting to see who backs up for Newcastle as well as Kalen back up. I think he's going to have to because where they're at.
Him.
They need him bad.
Well, let's get stuck into that review. Been great talking all things Origin, but we do have 2 rounds of football to go before we get to that.
Of course.
Must-win game for Queensland. The Dragons taking on the Knights. You mentioned...
Nathan Lawson.
Looks like
he'll play for the Dragons. He's played at the Olympics in Paris for the Sevens team. He's been playing really well in the New South Wales Cup, and looks like he'll get his first game.
That is fantastic. Like the team at the Dragons that have identified that talent. Obviously, Rooster did it with Nwangani Tuase, and it's opening up some doors for some players.
And there's going to be more to come, Jimmy. Yeah. I mean, I think this is just the start of it. There's other guys sniffing around, other rugby union players sniffing around league, particularly with Perth coming in. I think Perth will particularly target rugby union players. So, if Nathan comes in, plays well. Again, that's going to pique the interest of rugby league clubs in those rugby union guys, particularly those Sevens guys, because they're not a huge money. The Sevens guys, right? They can come to rugby league and start on equitable money what they're on in rugby union. If they kick on, then the world's their oyster a bit.
Also, NRL gives these players profile.
Yes.
With due respect to rugby at the moment, it's not. It's not. Even if you play for the Wallabies, the profiles are nowhere near that of the NRL. Sauce, who do you like in that game, Dragons and Knights?
It's a tough one, to be honest. I think it's a flip of the coin. I'm not going to lie.
Seriously?
Well, I thought Knights played pretty well last week against Penrith. I know Penrith played awful, but both teams desperate to start climbing that ladder. But I will go with the Dragons in the home just because they're playing at home. I think there's been a lot of inconsistencies around Newcastle's spine. Obviously, Kalen backing up will be a massive inclusion for him. But yeah, I feel for Adam O'Brien. He's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders. He needs to start getting some results. But also around like the debutant for Dragons, if it was to happen. I think there's been some chatter around like, do we move State of Origin to a later date just to avoid all the kind of confusion and like players having to back up. But again, without Origin this time of year, you won't be able to unearth as many gems like we were saying with him. So
on that chat of like pausing the season, it's not like that's a silver bullet, and it's
you
not
can't
gonna, it's
pause
not
the
gonna,
season.
It's
You
not going to
can't.
create other issues.
It's unfair to the teams that are doing really well
and
as
also,
well.
Like, think about how and some teams will suffer and some teams will prosper.
Exactly.
There was 3 debutants that scored tries last week. Xavier Varta, like, tell me you don't want stories like that,
Exactly.
which are only generated because of State of Origin.
Exactly right. Exactly right. I think it needs to stay. I don't think you can't change
Like,
it. If you're gonna stop and if you're gonna pull Origin towards the back end of the season, obviously that's going to affect the international games. But also, if you were to do that, like, I think it just turned like people won't be as invested.
Yeah,
Like, that's the reality.
I've come around on this because I was opposed to it, but I'm now thinking maybe we go back to the one standalone game. We used to have one weekend where Origin was played on a Sunday night or whatever it was. We had a standalone weekend. The other 2 games were Wednesdays.
Yep.
That had less impact. I think maybe
I don't
we
mind
go
that.
back to that.
I like
You
that.
You
I
with
like
me?
that. Oh, I'm with you. I'm with you. Second time today.
Yeah, I
but
know.
Sure.
I can't remember why we stopped doing that.
yeah, I don't know. Either.
Surely as well, like, we don't go to Wembley. The travel.
You don't like that idea?
No, the traveling. Look, I like the idea,
Yeah.
but again, I don't like the travel impact. It's the only way you go to Wembley is if you pause the season.
Well, you'd have to, yeah.
You'd
You
have
couldn't
to
do it.
pause the season.
What about New Zealand, Eden Park? Not keen on that either.
I mean,
We're already attracted the New Zealand audience, so we need to get a different audience. But where we're going to get that? United States, obviously England. Hope the game there. Maybe a curveball, Dubai. They've got the money. They've definitely got the purse to throw some cash.
I think you've got to keep it in Australia, personally. But,
I like that as well. And like I like how they do it.
you like everything sort of?
I am. I'm a great guy. I love everyone. But I do like how they are taking it to different cities rather than Queensland.
I think Magic Round's the thing you look at maybe taking overseas somewhere.
Yeah.
Maybe
that'll
play
be good.
Magic Round at Wembley.
You're on. Yeah. My God.
just a thought.
Yeah, that wouldn't impact the players.
I'm on the Dragons.
You Dragons?
Yeah, Dragons. I think Dragons
me
win that
too.
one.
Absolutely. I think they'll win convincingly as well. Titans v Storm.
I think
Probably
all 3 of us can agree.
Who backs up, who doesn't
depends
back
who
up.
backs up,
Yeah.
really.
I think that's what it's going to come down to, who backs up, who doesn't. You imagine Liero definitely will.
Yeah.
I think Harry Grant would want to play. He's
Yeah.
not played a lot.
They
I
have to
guess
be
he probably
careful with Harry.
Yeah,
They
He looked pretty
that's
busted,
the
but his
issue.
head looked like a smashed crab. But
Imagine
maybe he doesn't play a full game.
Yeah.
Maybe he plays 60 minutes. Maybe, but
I imagine Munster would want to play, get involved.
Coach was okay.
the thing about like players backing up from Origin, like if you're coming off a loss, like players want to get back to the clubland, try and turn the result, and try and get a win. And
Just on that, like, what's best for Harry Grant? Is it his mental state to get that game out of his head, or is it his physical state?
a bit of both.
Like, because the physical state, he could pay the price, and he ticks that box mentally, but physically he could be.
What's he coming back from? What injury was it? Ankle? Was it?
Hammy?
Hamstring.
Was it
Hammy,
hamstring?
wasn't it?
Yeah.
Hamstring.
Hamstring.
So hamstring, that
Yeah.
soft tissue.
Yeah,
It
They
kind
have to
of
be
raises
careful
the
with
risk
him, I
there. So I
imagine.
definitely feel like the high performance stuff need a flag with that. But
Tino's eye, and like, look, he'll back up no matter
will back
what.
up,
He's made of some tough stuff, but it's hard to see the Titans competing with the Storm.
the Titans' Achilles heel has been defense. They're leaking 30 points a game, and you're coming up against the Storm. Like, I think last year, actually the Titans like came close to beating them up on the Gold Coast. So it is a danger game in that sense, but I think the Storm's got too much class, especially off the back of Ryan Pappenhausen's performance.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah. Cowboys take on the Tigers. Tigers not impacted from Origin. Surely they get the victory against the Cowboys.
Well, I don't know. The way they're going at the moment, I wouldn't be too keen on the Tigers.
Well, really,
Heath
all
Mason
their
playing
distraction is
6.
gone.
Well, it is. Well, not quite gone. It's about to be gone. But don't
Got
know.
no court cases pending. Did
Yeah. I think the Cowboys might get him.
Really?
Yeah, I think so. They're going to have a few blokes backing up, obviously, but Dearden should be all right. Didn't play long minutes. And they've just been in a bit better form, I think, the Cowboys. So,
Have they that right? You know what's bizarre?
Well, they've been a bit up and down, haven't they?
They've only
Yeah.
got 4 wins.
Yeah.
They're
You're right,
actually in a
actually.
negative win-loss. So 4 wins, a draw, and 5 losses.
I haven't seen a competition this spread out for a very long time. Like it's very, very bizarre. But I think I'm agreeing just with the Cowboys playing at home. Listen, does Jerome Luai come out with a chip on his shoulder and light the world on fire?
Terrell May.
Terrell May as well.
I reckon
Up in Coruscant, like
I think Tigers get the win, and I reckon there's a ton of points.
you've talked me around,
Yeah,
Jimmy. I
ton of
might
points.
flip my tip there and go the Tigers
Sauce,
as well.
who are you with?
because I want to agree with both of you. I'm going the Cowboys.
Fair enough. Manly, no Tommy Turbo. Devastated for him with all the injury concerns. They take on the Broncos, which will likely have Payne Haas backing up, Carrigan backing up. Where does this game go? This is
These two teams have been absolute imposters
Haven't they?
going into the
when
season.
you talk. This isn't a flip of a coin. This is the roll of a 16-sided dice. Where this game goes, Jesus, it is. The magic 8 ball.
Yeah.
Like you shake it up and it'll give you the answer. Like you are.
I keep thinking at some point the Broncos will click. They've just got to,
with
don't
you
they?
there,
It's got to. I think no Tommy, no Jake, no Siwa Takiaho for Manly
He's
as
a big
well.
out.
Because they're already missing Paseka, obviously for the season. So they're a bit short up front with no Jake, no Paseka, no.
Well, if Haas and Carrigan can back up,
Yeah.
if they
Then
can
it's
back
good.
up, then
I think Brisbane win that game.
yeah,
They play on Saturday.
yes.
Yeah, Saturday night that game is, yeah.
I think I lean towards the Broncos.
Yeah.
I don't like what I'm seeing from the Manly Seagulls at the moment. They just don't fear me. I don't think
so
they fear
incon-
any
they're
side,
so
to be honest.
inconsistent. Oh my-
Inconsistent.
And they have been for years
They've
now.
got guys like Hamole. Yes, we keep looking to him, but like who else? Who sparks fear in the opposition?
Well,
from Manly?
Hopawate, I like him.
Oh, he's great. He's a great young prodigy coming through, but like, you need that big brother mentality. You need those big guys in the middle that really impose the opposition. And like, I'm not getting that from anyone with Manly. Like, they have Nathan Brown off the kickoff. Jesus Christ, back fence.
Yeah.
But other than Hamole, like when push comes to shove, I think Manly roll over.
Yeah, if Manly play at their best, they
They can beat anyone, Jimmy.
Yeah, they
if they're
can.
best, they're-
I'm with you guys. I'm with the Broncos on this one. Rabbitohs face the Warriors. Warriors will be huge favourites.
South's been good this year, though. I think they've had a couple of lean weeks, but
Big change,
given
right?
their injury problems they've had. I think Wayne's done an amazing job with South this year.
sensational.
That next man up mentality has really worked well for him, and it goes back to Wayne's kind of philosophy. It's just playing simple footy, and he gives you so much confidence as a football player. Like if you've got Wayne Bennett, like believing in you as a player, you'd do anything in the world.
Does South get Taylor May?
I know he toured there this week, Jimmy, but I don't think they sign him in the end.
Why?
I think they've got other areas, other priorities, and I think they're pretty set for outside backs. If you look at their team, they're reasonably set. Well, particularly in the centres. I mean, Talon's played a bit of wing as well, I guess, but I don't think he's high on their radar at the moment. I know as I said, I know he toured there this week, but I don't think it happens.
Is this the kind of the same issue they had when they signed James Roberts? And that's probably why they're kind of a bit offside signing Taylor May, obviously.
Well,
With what's
look, I
happened.
think any club that signs Taylor May is going to take their time and be really wary about it because of what he's been through, and he's been public about it, right? I mean, I think Danny Whiteley did an interview with him a little while ago talking about his time in a getting mental help for his mental state, and South obviously, as I said, he toured there this week, and but I think it's a long way.
Why isn't touring if they're not going to?
Well, I think they gave him an opportunity to come and have it. Look, he's looking for a club, right? I think there's a select number of clubs that would look at him and that he will look at. And I think they gave him the courtesy of having a chat to him and talking to him. But I'm not sure it's going to progress beyond that. But it's my understanding.
I think a club should take a chance on him.
Mate,
I think they should.
Josh,
I think
a club will, because he is talented.
He's got the talent. You know, I know what he's done. Like, I think he's paid the price. Let's face it, for what he did.
Well, like nothing has been. All charges were dropped.
All charges were dropped,
and he's obviously he's gone to a mental health facility, and he's sought help, which I think he needs to be congratulated on.
For sure,
it's not an easy decision to do.
I think it's more about his appearance, right? Like,
well, I think in an ideal world, right, he ends up at the Tigers with his brother. And I know I saw his brother the other day, Terrell, post on social media about Tyrone as well, playing well in England. And I know he's got an interest in coming back to Australia as well. So in an ideal world, I think all those three guys have spoken about it previously, about playing together at one club. But again, I think with the Tigers, they're one of the clubs that's potentially looking at tailor-made.
Yeah.
But again, there's a lot of water to
I know.
go under the bridge
Shane
before
Richardson's big on character.
Yeah.
Like, he's...
And Richo met with him before he went...
True.
Went and sought treatment. I think at that point they were thinking about it, but after that meeting, I think Richo went, oh, hold on. But obviously then Talamay went and got treatment.
And I think, honestly, he needs to be congratulated for going and getting
100%.
Like, that is a big call for a young man to recognise that he needs to fix up areas of his life, and he should be congratulated for that. It's a tough call. And it'd be good to see him back. It really would.
I think he's done everything. Like, if he's had those demons in his life, he's doing everything possible to get all that fixed up. I think, like you said, Jim, we've got to congratulate him. And like, when you go into a place to really, separate yourself from the world, really vent and talk to someone, you know what, I need help. Like that, you got to swallow your ego and your pride there.
I think he's spoken about how he just sees the world differently, and he's a different person now. Yeah. Rabbitohs or Warriors, who do we like?
I'm going to tip an upset. I'm going to go Souths in this one.
I'm going Souths as well for an upset.
Oh, I'm going to go the Warriors. Okay. I think they're in fine form. Panthers against the Eels. Cleary versus Moses.
Oh, no. We're here now.
Man, Penrith need to win.
Well, they...
Power do as well, but Penrith, I would think.
I think it's going to mean more. I think we'll see everybody back up, barring injury.
Yep. Well, they can't afford to rest guys, Jimmy. That's the problem for them at the moment.
No. I think they to get that 12 wins, 1 draw, 11 loss record, they need 9 wins from 13 games, so they can't afford to drop many. They do play Parramatta after Origin 3 as well. After Origin 2, it's the Warriors away. I imagine that will be the one they'll look to rest players. Yeah. So this is a must-win. I think Panthers will know it. I think they get the victory.
Yeah. I think they'll probably win it too. I think Penrith, those boys will be will be in the high after Origin.
They've been in this position before as well. I think it was 2017. I think we're like 2 wins up around this time of the year, and we end up stringing like 7-8 games in a row and ended up finishing 6th. Okay, so it can happen.
It can, yeah.
But everything's against them.
Yeah,
yeah. Like, if we're going to go, for what they've achieved in the past, we'd put our money on them and they'll make the 8. But as a former Panther, like, I always will back them to the end, but I can't see them winning this week. I really can't.
Oh, really?
I think they just got their confidence is absolutely shot. They're flat. Teams are preparing extra harder for them whenever they come around, and there's no cohesion. I feel there's something there I just can't put my finger on, but it's just not working. And it's like they just got towed up on Newcastle. Yes, they didn't have their Origin players. You could say the same thing about Newcastle. I didn't have Bradman Best, Kalen Ponga, but they still dished up 20. Like, they got touched up.
Maybe Origin helps Penrith though. Maybe it gives those blokes a little bit of a spring in their step. They come back from beating Queensland. They've got a bit of
with that winning mentality, that winning feeling.
They're still playing. They're playing well. It's not like they're playing terrible.
No.
Like, I just feel like they just can't put points on the board. And I think Jerome Luai and Fish, like, that was the final 2 nails in the coffin. Like, that finally broke the camel's back in terms of
these two teams, when they play against each other, usually produce classics. Power, a bit of a bogey team for the Panthers, but I am going to pick the Panthers to win this one. Sauce, you're with the Eels?
Oh, God, I can't believe I'm saying
you
this.
Traitor. Really?
Panthers. Because I'm a Panther, I have to go Panthers, but I'm very, very nervous.
I think Penrith win.
Yeah. Final match of the round, the Roosters take on the Raiders. Great game. This is a game that you wish Roosters had their obviously the full complement of players, but more so without the fatigue of Origin. Obviously, it's a Sunday game, so they'll get plenty of time to rest. Heavily represented in the State of Origin arena. The Raiders' demolition job over in New Zealand. That was a feisty game. I reckon this is game of the round. This is huge.
Yeah,
I like Roosters. Okay. I do. I think Tedesco's been he's been the best fullback this year. He's arguably probably one of the best captains going around at the moment. I've got to give a massive rap to their spine. Sandon Smith, Hugo, Savala.
Yep.
He's been outstanding. Connor Watson, he only played a few minutes on Wednesday night, so he'd definitely back up. And
Robbie Toya
as well.
Yeah.
He'd be just full of confidence coming into this game. So, and I just liked how the way they're playing at the moment. They're playing tough. They're stripping teams apart, and I think they can expose Canberra in this game. The only thing that they need to do is they've got to slow down the ruck. They've got to stop their big boys from Canberra because we know how they're going to play. They're going to play aggressive. They're going to be in your face, and that's typical Ricky Stewart footy, right?
Leniu v Tarpany will be good.
Oh, that's going to be juicy.
Tarpany was fired up last week.
I like Canberra in this game.
Yeah, me too.
I reckon their forward pack's playing. Their forward pack's so dominant at the moment. Yeah. You mentioned Tarpany, but Horsburgh's got a point to prove.
Yeah, true.
Hudson Young's just playing out of his skin. I like the look of this Canberra forward pack.
Starling as well. Mate.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a great game, though.
Yeah, it will be. I'm going to go with the Raiders as well, really. That's all we've got time for, lads.
Really?
Yes.
How long's that been? How long was that?
Hour and a half.
Blimey, didn't we gibber?
Yeah. Oh, my God.
Sauce just continuing going on random rants about who did you bring up? Oh, David Fafita.
He brought it up, and I wanted to elaborate on that.
Where's he going? What's he going to do? So, yes, thanks for joining us, Sauce. Brent Read, pleasure as always. And thanks for listening, everyone. We'll catch you very, very soon.